I could go see your page. It should have
Uh-uh.
invited you to be able to pair it. It didn't. So you need to
No,
share
because
it.
yeah, I'll just share from Facebook. It's fine.
Okay, I'll give you a moment.
Yeah, if you're live, I'll just share it. Child. No, because I um sent it to my airdropped it.
Okay. You know I'm the Samsung gal. So you all just give us a few moments. We
Oh.
getting our technical stuff together. Okay, I'll give you a moment. Then we're gonna start. Anybody, if you are watching this live from my page, you know me and I'm pretty candid. There are other people that will be watching this live from Nikki's page. I do want Nikki to introduce herself before we get started. Talk about this reality TV. Ooh, child.
Yeah, so if you're I just shared that on Facebook. If you're watching this from my page, you already know me. My name is Nikki Barnes. I am a political advisor here in Florida. I have a number of candidates that I work with, and I love Chanae because she keeps it 100 with these conversations, and her and I always talk in comments on the back end about stuff or whatever. But this is my sister right here, and for
Yeah,
this particular conversation, I was like, sis, we gotta link up and have this one because this this was some chaos. And I want to say thank you to everybody who stayed focused and drove this thing along. And didn't highlight, but baby, I'm on Twitter too, and Twitter was a whole nother experience. This stuff got wild. So and this cycle, Shanae and I were on opposite sides of the gubernatorial primary, which is cool. It happens, right? Most important thing is that when a deed is done, we all come back together and get to work. Ensuring that we put the right people in office who are going to do the right things for the people of the state of Florida collectively. So
absolutely.
I'm happy to be here. This is going to be a good conversation. Look, I got my cocktail, so we about to talk.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So for everybody that's joining, because I know a lot of you all don't keep up with like the candidates. So Nikki introduced herself. For Nikki's audience, I am Shanae Jackson. I am a political advisor in Alachua County. I'm a community organizer. I pride myself on being a community troublemaker, and I am no holds barred. Nikki is as well, but then she still keeps a wonderful level of professionalism. So sometimes when she needs someone, she'll come to my page because I'm gonna do the cussing for everybody. Um, very much so. And so I wanted to highlight for Alachua County. So Nikki's out of Tallahassee. She works with people in Duval, like all over the state of Florida. Um, Even when it came to the actual Democratic Party, there's huge work she's done there. So we want people to see us in this light, especially in our communities. People don't even realize the work that is done behind the scenes, the investment that is made by people that look like us. So even when we are talking to you all about getting to the polls, people like, I ain't interested. You should be, because it'd be a whole reality TV show. I swear to you. And so even when she commented on her page, I was like, yes. So what we're gonna do is we want to discuss the Florida Agricultural Commissioner seat. So the Florida Agricultural Commissioner is the seat that Nikki Freed currently holds. Most people know it is because in the free lunch program. Other people know it if you are a nonprofit, you have to do a solicitation of contributions form. Other people know it is because when you get your concealed carry permit. So just trying to give you some feedback on what this particular office is because people don't understand what the office is and what the office actually does. So it gives y'all that frilly stuff, but things that can resonate with you. Also, when it comes to hemp, when it comes to farming and some of those regulations and things, these are the things that come out of the office as well as some consumer protections as well. So just kind of so as we talk to you about this particular race, you have an understanding of where we coming from and why we like, whoa. And so I'll let Nikki get started. I can't even hold in my laughter, so we'll start with Nikki.
All right, so I'll because people are like, we want the tea, and so I'll start with a little backstory here, right? Um, Nikki Freed, Commissioner Freed, holds that seat currently, and we all know last year she launched a campaign for governor. which left that seat vacant, right? We did not have anybody in that seat ready to go. And so when those rumors started, one of the candidates, Ryan Morales, announced his candidacy to replace Nikki. And we were like, okay, cool. That's fine. We'll figure this thing out as we go, right? And the sad thing is that Democrats didn't have other cabinet people running all the way to the beginning of this year. Like, it was like January, February, we were like, hold on, we don't have a CFO running. We don't have an attorney general running. Like, we don't have nobody running. Our only cabinet person running is Ryan Morales. So we got to do some recruitment here, like, for real, right? You can't have a blank top of ticket slate. It's not going to happen. And if you leave it that way, it makes room for qualifying week for some weird shenanigans to pop off, right? You got to find candidates. And so I was working with the Florida Democratic Black Women's Consortium. And we were like, you know what? We're going to recruit Black women to run for all of our vacant spots, right? And so we started this recruitment process, and we reached out to a bunch of Black women that were legislators and former elected officials and, county level, school board stuff or whatever, trying to figure out what made sense. And because Ryan had already filed and he is Latino, we were like, we'll let Ryan stay because he'll be like the only Latino on a statewide ticket, which is fine, right? We're the Democratic Party. We want it to look like Florida, and we show our strength and diversity through our candidates. Okay. Yeah. So we got candidates for AG. All of a sudden, people started popping up. We got Aramis running, who won her seat last night. So congrats to Aramis. We got Adam Hattersley to run for CFO. So that was great. And then the ag race was like, well, wait a minute. We gonna run too. So then we saw J.R. Gallo file, right? No. It was Adam Christensen file. And the Secretary of State was like, bruh, did you read the requirements behind filing for this race? You're not old enough. And I was like, that's kind of embarrassing for Democrats, right? To have someone that files and they're not old enough to run for the seat. And so Adam gets JR to run, and JR's in the race.
But I want to we got a primary. Get there. It shows how arbitrary some of the rules actually are. Because literally the age requirement for the other seats is different than for this particular seat. So how they sneak stuff in there. So I want to make sure we point that out.
Yeah. So, then we got a primary, right? Again, it's the ag seat. And for those of you who are voting, and I hope everyone watching is voting this cycle, right? On your top of ticket, it's going to be U.S. Senate, Congress, Chris for governor, Aramis, Adam, and then the ag. I mean, this is like, we coming on down ballot. So ag is really the last of the down ballot top of ticket, right? So JR jumps in. I'm like, okay, we got a primary. We'll see how this finesses, right? We'll see how it works. We'll make sure the rest of the ticket is strong, and we'll make this work. However, because right now, Democrats, we have that seat. So for us, it's a protection seat, right? And then at the 11th hour, right before qualifying week, we get Naomi Blamere from South Florida, from Miami, and like out of nowhere, like files her paperwork, pays the qualifying fee. And Chanae knows me. I watch that website like it's my, diary. I check it every day. If you are a Democrat and you file statewide in Florida, or even file for a legislative seat, I'm calling you. Likely, like on day one, like what's going on here? How? Mainly because I want to make sure we're on message and we're together. Like, I don't want no shenanigans. I don't want no foolery. I want to make sure that I can personally advocate for your candidacy. So when Ryan filed, call Tim. When JR filed, call Tim. When Naomi filed, not only did I call her, I called her before she even knew her paperwork had made it through. And she was like, oh my God, how are you even on my phone? Because I'm that nosy. And then I met her for dinner in Tallahassee when she paid her qualifying fee. And so we were off to the races in June with a 3-person primary. I'm not a fan of primaries like that in a statewide race because let's be for real, Democrats are broke. BROKE. There is no money. And so primaries make us waste resources that we don't have. We are literally putting stuff on a credit card and hoping it works out in the general. And I don't like running politics that way. But then the drama happened. And oh boy, did it not happen. So I know Chanae, you sent me a document. I think that I was the first pew shots fired in this primary, and it was against Naomi. I think when she picked up a bunch of endorsements from South Florida, Tampa Bay Times, and a couple other things, it was like
But I want to
it's time to go
interject
to
here.
war.
So I want to
Yeah, go
interject
ahead.
here. So before we over in this end, before we knew JR was running, we found out that Naomi was running. So we found out in the inverse. So what we start to do, and a lot of people don't know this, we start making calls. So we know she's from South Florida. So I'm gonna call down there. Other people gonna call down there. We want to get feedback. We want to get input because we do want to know who is it that we want to throw support behind because we want to maintain our seats. And then of course
Mm-hmm.
we want that are actually going to advocate for us. But what happened is when we had calls throughout the state, throughout the Haitian community is a community that stands and sticks together. And they were like, no, 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 red flag, flag on the play, flag on the play. Okay. So our deal is the Haitian community, this is the community that's impacted. They're stating, don't do this, stay out of the way. So I'm a person who likes to advocate for the community that says stay out of it. So we stayed out of it and said, okay, Naomi's problematic. We're going to see this statewide. So this is going to fix itself. So then some weeks later is when JR actually entered the race. So now we got JR, we got Naomi, and we got Ryan. What was interesting about Ryan, who is Latino, he started to state all of a sudden now to resonate that he was Native American. And I'm like, well, how is, yeah, yeah, so you probably even know that part. And it was just like in certain areas. Now he was trying to identify as Native American. Okay, you're a brown person. It all of that was an issue. I already was sitting in the background like, who? So for me, when JR entered the race, I was like, oh. So now we can relax because somebody with some sense that's just really trying to get this done. But proceed.
Yeah, so I no. I didn't catch the whole Native American thing. Yeah, I'm look, I've been tunnel vision in another direction for the last 4 or 5 months or whatever. So I'm sure there's plenty that I missed. I just, I know all of these candidates, right? I've talked to all of them extensively. I absolutely adore and love Ryan. I think he got into the race for the right reason. He really wanted to do something, right? In that seat and build on what's already been done, but probably more importantly to educate people about what could be done in that role. And mainly people get caught up in it being ag, and it's not. This is your consumer services officer. This is the person who protects you as a consumer. When somebody comes into this state, business, healthcare, anything, if they start some fuck shit and start impacting large numbers of consumers, i.e., Rick Scott Medicare fraud, this is the person who is going to investigate that stuff, their offices, and work with the attorney general to protect consumers. And I think that to me, ag is important because it's part of the food distribution, which is also consumer protection. But I wish this role was not called the agricultural commissioner. It really is the consumer protectant. This is the person who, when shit pop off, you need them to be on your side and fighting the good fight. So when Ryan filed or whatever, him and I talked, and he was I told him, you've got to, I get it, it's the agricultural commissioner and consumer services, but you've got to rebrand this thing for Floridians if you want to win this seat. It has got to be the consumer advocate. People have got to understand your Second Amendment rights. Like Chanae mentioned, getting your gun permit, the food that you eat, the assistance for feeding children in the state, our food banks. These are consumer advocacy issues that you got to have the right person in this seat that is focused on you as the consumer. You spend your money, and your expectation is that you are getting something that is going to benefit you. And when these companies or whoever fucks up, you got to have somebody that's ready to come through and be like, call the AG, we filing charges. And that's what this role has to be. So,
and even more so, make sure we drive home Black and brown communities, because the data shows Black and brown communities are most impacted because we have less resources. So it is even one thing when you're screwed over and you're somebody with means and money to actually have recourse. But when you don't have means and money to have recourse, even people say sue. Well, you might wait 3 or 4 years in order to be sued. You need someone who's going to fix the system so that you don't have to wait to sue someone because they mistreated you. You need someone who can advocate on your behalf because you don't have the means and the money to do it yourself. It's important, and a lot of people don't get it.
Exactly. And that is the importance behind this role. And I want people to understand this. These cabinet seats are a check on the governor's mansion, but I hate the way they're built in hierarchy. I need to understand that this seat, this ag commissioner seat, the attorney general and the CFO, they are not below the governor. These are straight line. And you've got to see them that way. Okay. You've got to see them as, if you're getting screwed over in this state, or something's happening with, farming or consumer advocacy or whatever, this is the equal line to the governor to say, okay, governor, you can do something about this legislatively with the House and the Senate, or I'm going to raise hell individually and bring in the rest of the cabinet to fix this for the people. It's not, see, the way it's operated the last 28 years under Republican rule is people think that the governor at the top and the rest of these folks do what he or she says. That's not how this works. It is a check on the bullshit in our state. So this role is extremely important. And so when I talked to JR about it, on the consumer services front, he was really adamant about housing. We've got, this is not inflation in Florida. This is greed. It is not, because come on now, I own my home today, but I am not too far removed from moving every year, having a new lease, moving into the apartment or whatever, trying to find lower rent. My mom used to clown me like, girl, you moving again? I'm like, yeah, child, the lease is up and the rent's going up. I gotta go. But talking to some young people out here today, I never had to worry about rent being what it is now. This is insane. The same apartment that I rented in Tallahassee 14, 15 years ago for $450 a month, the same apartment is $1,850 right now. Baby, y'all ain't did nothing to that apartment to make it $1,850. It still is in the ghetto. It still look run down. It still look like you need to pack all your stuff and run inside real fast. Like, there's no reason. This is greed. You're not going in there and putting in marble, floors and, cabinets and everything else. This is literally greed. And that's another check that this office has to hold. And so I was proud of JR for like immediately jumping in and being like, from a consumer protection advocacy, this is my lane. I'm gonna run this lane all the way through the primary. And I was like, cool, we got a primary. And then we had another one. And Naomi came in like straight farmer. Her grandparents were farmers or whatever. And that's the agricultural part is what she linked more into because she's a descendant of immigrants who worked the field. So, I mean, it makes sense. Like that's where she linked to the consumer protection of working in the fields in Florida. And here is the thing. We talk about, our ag groups in Florida. I don't want to work in anybody's field. And I haven't met anybody who was like, you know what? When I grow up, I'm going to toss them watermelons in the back of the truck, boy. I'm going to do it fast. Do it fast. That's just not.
Do it to satisfied.
Yeah. Big, strong muscles and toss. Not like that is hard work. That is a hustle, right? And those individuals deserve, a quality of life, healthcare, adequate pay for that work, because we ain't gonna do it. But I guarantee you, when it's watermelon season and I go to the grocery store and they ain't in there, I'm gonna feel some kind of way. I want to speak to the manager. I'm gonna put my Karen hat on and I want to know what's going on.
But also too, we can talk about like hemp. So a lot of people don't realize that even when it comes to hemp and farms and some of the regulation as well, it can actually be impacted by this office also. So our understanding of that, I think, is probably one of the reasons that Naomi won. Like for me, I'm in shock. I need somebody to know it. Like, I'm like this. How stupid can we be? And nothing personal against Naomi, but the fact that she has interchangeably used her name when it's beneficial to her, the fact that even on the documents that she utilized to file, she did not include all of her assets, which means she kind of fast and loose. That's how I take it with the truth. The fact that her husband is incarcerated for fraud and larceny and all of these things, I could be wrong, but it's not a lot that her husband could do, even as it relates to her knowledge, even if she was not fully involved and fully invested. And on a larger scale, all I can think of is now this is the person that we have running against the candidate on the other side. And you already have people who run a campaign where they breed fear. They're always saying that we're stealing. They always, allude, even though they're proven crooks. I just can't make it make sense. And even with Ryan, so when all of these things happened about previous domestic violence incidents, I was like, well, cool. This should be easy for Floridians to know who to choose because we want somebody that's squeaky clean and that actually knows the job about protecting consumers. This should be easy in order to be able to hold on to the seat. But apparently, we are more attuned to electing someone even her community says don't elect. And I think it speaks on a larger scale to me that the manner in which we run elections and review things is, oh, well, we're just going to choose the one that's most electable. But who's determining who's electable? Because if you listen to the communities that's impacted, you would make better choices. And they don't do that. It's always somebody directly opposed to the community that they've already been in and shown that they're going to mistreat and misuse. And I don't know.
And that's the odd thing, right? So I got a lot of messages during these last few weeks or whatever, like, Nikki, what's going on? Why are the Florida Dems not vetting their candidates? And I had to explain that there is no vetting. Okay. Correct. And people may feel like, what do you mean there's no vetting? There anybody, Joe Blow, Susie Q, doopity doo, whoever, can go down to Tallahassee or their local SOE and file to run. And that's one of the reasons why, I watched that website, because when you file, I'm on your ass, Miss Postman. Because before anybody else knows who you are, I want to make sure we not gonna have no shenanigans. So that really should be the vetting process there, right? When people file, calling them, having a conversation, understanding how they fit into our overall ticket for service of that district or the state, and making sure, and if they don't fit, being unapologetic about having the conversation that says, you know what, I I can't stop you. You filed. But I want you to understand this is the direction that we're going in, and I don't think you fit. And so you've got a decision to make here. Understand that, you know, the powers that be, people get upset about, are not going to support this campaign, or I think it's better for you to run here. And wherever here may be, it may be this cycle, next cycle, or whatever, because we are trying to build majorities that are on the same platform and on the same service to the communities that they live in, right? And so there's no vetting. Anybody can file and run.
I'm glad you clarified that too. I've been in debates with people who often state, I've been on debates with people who often state the Democratic Party and the people that they run and the people that they run, and help be the people to know and understand, because that's what they say. The parties are, they're all the same. They're this, they're that. Wanting people to know that anyone can do it. Democrats don't run candidates per se. You can offer support. You can offer backing, those types of things. You can offer endorsements, and helping people who typically are not engaged understand that aspect of it. Because when they have a level of distrust, they have a level of distrust for the person and not the party. And mind you, y'all know I got qualms with that particular party, because even points that that I actually agree with on their faces, having that conversation. My issue is, I hear the party say it often. They're always looking for candidates who are moderate. Moderate candidates don't bring about change. They're looking for candidates who can appeal to Republicans. Literally, you appeal to your party. You appeal to the people that you're trying to serve. And you stick with that. I always hear them say, well, yeah, we're going to choose this one because they're more electable. And they're looking at who's more electable by who has the ability to raise more money. I look at it in the inverse. The person who has the ability to raise more money, while money is necessary to get a person elected because of voter contacts and things like that, I want a person who has been impacted by the issues that they're advocating for, because they're going to look at it from a different lens. And what happens is you keep trying to have the haves govern for the have-nots, and then not include the have-nots, and then wonder where the disconnect actually is. Or they're trying to govern for people who are impacted by policies and systems, and you are not. And then you're totally missing, and it's falling upon deaf ears. And then we're seeing that in our communities that are so-called democratic or progressive. And because they still have the same mindset, they just have a different party designation. I would like for the Democratic Party to be stronger. And to me, to make it be stronger is to be encompassing of the people that you serve through decision making. Not I do it for you. You just show up and then sit down and let the grown folks handle it. And that, to me, that's what we are missing. I know people supporting them, and I'm just being real, but it's just the whole, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you know me, I'm very honest and very transparent. I'm like, hell no. And I could be wrong. I really am. I do not see her being successful in the general election. Me personally, it is extremely difficult because I just got to put a bubble, but I definitely vote my conscience. And my conscience saying no. And I know it's a lot of people like me whose conscience is saying no. And the deal is, I have to keep the same energy, because the same way that Trump was a crook and I was totally opposed to it, I have to feel that way when it's on this side as well. If I don't, then I feel like I'm no better.
Yeah, so no, I get you on that. So like, I have these like Signal and these other messaging apps, right? So people drop me these disappearing documents or whatever, and it's probably the easiest way to reach me and like throw me tea anonymously, right? So that happens all the time. So I get the document. Oh, Naomi didn't disclose all of her assets, right? So I text her, when did you sell your house in New York? Because I'm not gonna, oh, I got this document or what, like flat out, you're being accused of having assets you didn't report. So my assumption, and for those that don't know me, my glass is never half empty or half full. It's thrown across the room someplace. So I'm gonna go straight to it. When did you sell that house? She texts back 2019. I said, send me the deed. And she sent it to me. The house was sold back in 2019. And I said, okay, that's the end of that. And then when I met her, I flat out asked her, because I did my own little Googling or whatever. And I said, your husband's in the clank. And again, for those that know me, it's what it is. Your husband's in the clank. They're going to beat you across the head as a Black woman about your husband being locked up for fraud. And they're going to say, there's no way in hell, as a Black woman in a household, you didn't know what was happening in your own home. And actually, so, I don't know if you knew or didn't know, and I don't care. What is going to be your response? Because not so much even your response. How are you going to react? Because people really don't care about how you respond. They want to know if they come to you and be like, your husband's a criminal, are you going to be clutching pearls and, trying to find your breasts and everything else? Are you going to be like, yeah, he fucked up, but I'm gonna hold him down, and this is, it is what it is, and we've all learned the value. Like, what is it gonna be, And I mean, she told me he fucked up, and she was not privy in her verbiage to everything that was going on. She learned more about it after it was too late to correct it, and he was already going down the trouble, and it was gonna be, do not pass go, do not collect $200 in our monopoly mindset. But I told her, people are going to ask you, why are you still married to him? You want to be a public official, and your husband's been convicted of a serious crime, and he's currently serving federal time. The expectation for some of them that don't look like us, right, is going to be, why didn't you divorce him? You should be divorced. You should leave him. He's, whatever. And she told me, I'm a Christian woman. I took my vows seriously. It's to death do us part, and I'm gonna hold him down. I'm not gonna argue with you about what you do with your man.
And speaking of that, that was a deal breaker for me when she talks about being pro life in the manner in which she did. And so, keeping that same energy, the same
You know,
way, I don't want a white evangelical telling me what they need to do with reproductive rights and Black women dying at 3 times the rate as everybody else. To be a Black woman, because you Black first, you chose your ideology when it came to your religion.
mm-hmm.
So boldly do that. I think that's another reason that is so shocking to me. But that goes with us in our quote unquote progressive values. You voted for a woman who is very not just pro life, because that makes it sound so freely. You really voted for a woman that's against reproductive health and our rights and our freedoms. If you're okay impeding on that right, you okay with impeding on other rights. And I think that's problematic. And going back to a community that we serve, Haitian American is also different than Black American. But as a
Mm-hmm.
person, people see us being Black, understanding how we die in childbirth and how our children die, to take that position, it's a no. And that's the deal as well. I think politically, we get stuck where we're stuck with the lesser of the two evils. And at the end of the day, Black and brown communities are the ones that are most impacted. Now, I'll be real. I ain't happy about it. And even too, Wilton Sampson is no different. Like, you don't have an option for ad commissioner. So literally, Nikki not being in this race, we fucked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle for many people, and for those that follow me, y'all know I am a strong, I am pro-choice. I put it on the credit card, pro-choice, like, and really, a lot of us get our moral grounding from our parents, right? And our grandparents or whoever were institutional in raising us. And let me be very clear. My grandparents were, even my mother, they are very religious, very conservative in their faith. and everything else. And my grandmother, you know, in her later years, really became like a devout Catholic. But she was a charismatic Catholic. And what my grandmother would say, because she saw, even as a Republican voting woman in Texas, she saw equality and access to reproductive health care as a both a woman's and a male issue.
It is.
So, you know, and yeah, so in full transparency here, I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but my mother and my father were 16 and 15 when they got pregnant with me. So, you know, my mother was 17 when she gave birth, teenage mother, right? And when you're a teenage mother and you go through that, you try to do everything you can to make sure that that doesn't repeat itself in the next cycle. Well, I mean, come on. I'm Nikki. You know, I was in school. I was cute. You know, doing my little thing. And, you know, history popped up.
Period.
Like, not that though, you know. But my grandmother said, you know, there was a situation where I could have become a teenage mother, but my grandmother said that is not fair to you or to him and his family, because both of you guys are teenagers. Both of you have an opportunity to do something else in your life. You probably won't even, and she was being real, you probably won't even like this nigga in about 3 years. You know,
Straight
he's
up.
cute right now, but he ain't gonna be cute later, you know?
Straight up.
And so, you know, my family made a choice. And the choice was for me to go to college and to get an education and do something better and, you know, consciously choose when to have children.
You know
And
what's
did not.
interesting about that? So, talking to people who work in abortion clinics, many of the people that come to the clinics will tell you that they are anti-choice, except in their situation. Like literally, they said that one of the most eye-opening things that you will ever experience working in an abortion clinic is the number of people that are anti-choice, and that's what I call it. Because these people talking about life, they don't care about a baby once it gets here, so that's a whole nother conversation. Is that when they come, and even though they're anti-choice, it's anti-choice except in my situation, which literally proves why
Right.
the choice actually needs to be there. And so it's these people that are buying into allowing other people to govern a woman's body, except then when their situation presents, and whatever that situation is. And I wouldn't meet, like in your situation, it was a choice in order to put your life on another path. But they also stated that often the choice is not even about that. They're domestic violence situations. It's a situation. There are all of these situations where a person should be able to make that choice. I'll tell people, my daughter, who I post about her all the time. I was told after my second son, because my placenta ruptured and I had complications, I couldn't have more children. Like there was no ability. So even people fail to realize that some people may end up pregnant and not be prepared because medically they're not supposed to be able to have children. And in my case, that's what the
Right.
case was. So it's told you birth control. And mind you, my daughter is 6 years younger than my sons. Trust me, I was screwing all 6 years in between. We gonna be clear.
Clear.
Yeah. And so helping people to understand, you know, that part of it. And I think for us, we talk about these values that we have, but then when it's time for the people who actually to show up to the polls to show up, it's like the values go out of the window. And they state, well, you know, and we will smash the other people apart for being a particular way, but in practice we're that way. And for me, I want to highlight that it's because that's why many of the most impacted people don't come to the table, because they don't trust nobody, and they don't trust anybody because everybody's doing it the same way. It's just that some people have organized their people and their money, so they got more power.
Exactly. You know, and I'm a strong advocate for a woman's right to privacy. It's what I want to share with you, I want to share with you. What I don't. It's none of your damn business. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Again, my glass is never half empty or half full. It's tossed across the room someplace. And so when those social media posts came out, I'm on Twitter also. I did a Twitter space. And it wasn't just a pro-choice thing. It was the LGBTQ community as well. And some of the thoughts behind that were uncovered on previous social media posts. And I text Naomi and was like, join my space. We got questions. I'm gonna need some answers because I stand where I stand. And I believe, whatever your faith is, that guides you. That ain't got shit to do with me. If you believe in your faith, say on Tuesdays, y'all eat tacos, baby, enjoy them tacos. I may have a steak on Tuesday. We not the same.
Straight
And
like that.
so, and that's like I brought her onto a Twitter space, and I asked her, I'm like, I don't, this pro-choice thing, like I believe in it. It's nobody's business. I have 3 children. I tell Chanae, give me 5 minutes because I'm cussing out kids in my house. Like,
And they know I
like
do.
for real. Yeah, look, my oldest is 18. Well, she's 17. She's a senior in high school this year. And I got 2 smaller ones that are 9 and 7. Like, I'll be in here screaming, acting a fool. I have children, and I believe in a woman's, but I have a career. I'm a business owner of a couple of businesses. Like, you're not going to tell me how I live and run my life. I have a right to privacy. And I believe in doing what I gotta do to make sure that not only am I successful, but that my children are well cared for and that I'm making my household do what it do. And so, that and for me, reproductive health care is part of that. As women, we are the ones who have to, you know, oh, can I, especially when you start a new job, like, can I, they give me maternity leave? How many weeks do I get off? If I only get 6 weeks off, can I find a daycare that takes my child at 6 weeks? And then the daycare, I mean, I remember paying like $1,500 a month for 2 kids. I'm like, damn, my mortgage ain't even that. And this is, I mean, the expense of having a child, right? And then, for women, like I'm sure like Chanae and myself, who have worked hard and, built things and have income, some of us have fallen into that gap where you make too much for help, but it's still not enough to survive. These kids cost,
And
if
so
it's
for
like two
me,
grand.
as you talking about childcare, to me, that is a reproductive health issue. And like we had a whole bill, Andrew Nixon pushed it in the legislature to actually be able to increase the guidelines for people to get subsidized childcare. That failed. And so I think that's the biggest thing. We're talking about this ag race, but really understanding where people are and where their position is on stuff, and how literally when they get into an office, it governs how the decisions that they make. And I think for me, and even though Naomi, she definitely ain't the choice at all. What is shocking to me is the number of people that chose her, even though she is directly opposed. So many of the things that we say that we stand for. So it was like funny and interesting to watch it unfold on Twitter and different things like that. But the fact that the candidate that had the least issues came in last just shows us that we're not voting. I don't know what we're doing as it relates to voting. And even too, as she states, well, oh, her husband fucked up and she stayed because of those particular things. Her community states that she is a fraud and is problematic. Her community is very clear. People that should be very close to her don't understand. And it's the deal. This unpopular with Democrats because I speak the truth. I'm going to always keep the same energy. The trust that I have developed with the people that I advocate for, it is because I'm going to keep it real, even when that's uncomfortable. And I have to align with the people over the party. But I'm not calling her out per se by telling the truth about her. I want the people in our party to come to the carpet and be accountable by how they think. And that's the deal. If you are advocating and you're fighting for pro-choice, how in good conscience did you vote for someone that is clear that they are opposed to pro-choice? If you are advocating for queer rights, how is it that you chose and selected a person who is clear that she's totally opposed to those particular things? So literally, we're cutting our hand off to spite our face. Um, Even about Ryan, his things as the domestic abuse, it was extremely problematic. He came in second. There might have been a case that he made where these were times and could show rehabilitation and different things like that. But even us
Mm-hmm.
as a people, we're aligning to perceive power, not realizing that we dictate the power. If we all show up for the right person to do the right thing, that's where the power lies. And I'm so I cannot the FDP can say whatever, but I felt that way even when it came to the Florida Democratic Party, when it came to the party chair for the state. That was some bullshit. That was some bullshit. It's that same mindset. I'm just being real. There is no way that the party chair should have won. There's nothing about him where he should have won. But we are looking at perceived power. We're looking at perceived money that they can bring to the table, not realizing that the people are the power. We can skip if we organize and motivate the people, we can skip all the bullshit in the middle. We can have less money if we have more people, but we don't have people will and I'm still boots on the ground. So when I'm knocking on doors, and the reason that people won't vote is because they trust neither side, we have an accountability and a capability on this side to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Naomi about her positions, right? And she says that she is for choice and women reproductive health. And I'm just, I had her in my space on Twitter.
They tell her she running,
And
she can say that now, but who she was before she ran, that's what we go with.
and she said that she does respect the rights of the LGBTQ community. And here's the thing: candidates can say what candidates want to say when they want to say it, how they want to say it, right? That's part of running for office, to create a narrative that wins you over the majority of the electorate to get through a primary, and she's been able to do that. People that have reached out to me that are concerned, I remind them what I started this talk with earlier. That is not a legislative seat. There are no bills to be written there. There are no laws to be ordained. There are, I get the fear,
I agree
right?
with that, but it's creating a culture. And so that's just
Exactly.
like me. People say, why you want to run? Because the same Chanae that you see now, I've been sitting on the dais cussing their ass out. I'd be like, you want some fuck shit. I know this.
Right.
So I could run. Oh no, I'm going to be prim and proper, and I'm not going to do that. Soon as one of them be white people, and trying to tell me what I know, I'm gonna tell them straight up on the dais, you want some fuck shit, and I ain't having that. So I just choose to be honest.
So you and I are in the same boat. So I get the same questions too. Nikki, why don't you file and run or whatever? And I say, first of all, I have no poker face. The minute you say some fuck shit, I'm gonna be like, wait, sir, ma'am, hold on. And then if you get real out there, I'm gonna get to clapping, and we go.
Look,
We're gonna be all over national news because I done cut a fool. It's gonna be viral. My kid's gonna be embarrassed, because I'm gonna pop off, and it is what it is, right? Because I am grounded in what I believe and what I advocate for, and even when it's people that I like and I support, when they fuck up, I know they be like, oh, here come this bitch calling. Cause I'm serious about this.
that's
I'm
me
gonna
straight up.
call you to the car and ask you, what are you gonna do? This stuff came out. Like, what are you going to do? And so right now, we do have a nominee who has won the ad commissioner seat, who is gonna be on the statewide ticket in November, running to replace Commissioner Freed. And here is where I'm at right now. Like I said earlier, it's a check, and I want people to treat. I want Here's my ask. I want 2 cabinet seats, and I don't give a damn which 2 it is. I want 2. So y'all can give me attorney general and governor. You can give me AG and CFO. You can give me ag, and I want 2 cabinet seats, because we have to have a check. We have to have a check on the bullshit. So if you can't give me ag, I'm not arguing with you. I need Aramis, and I need Adam Hattersley, and I need and Charlie, and whichever ones you guys feel you can go the hardest for, go hard. because those are equal seats. Do
Indeed.
not think that, the governor is the top dog. No, this is the cabinet. And it is a check on the bullshit. And I need the same energy that you will put behind Charlie Crist for governor, put behind Aramis, and I don't care. Give me 2 cabinet seats.
I can give
So
you
we can
3.
get
I can give you Adam. I can give you Aramis. I can give you Charlie. I can give you 3. And it's the deal. If there wasn't so many problematic things, and that's the deal. And so, for me, very clearly, the 2, right. So somebody said if she's a non-starter, and she's it's a no for me. And people know that I'm very, very clear with that and who I am. And I ask other people to be that, because that's the reason I'm able to build the trust. And that's the reason I'm able to motivate people to actually get to the polls and get engaged in this. They know I'm not going to sell them scraps, because literally the manner in which I look at the ag seat right now is we can have shit or we can have shit with glass in it. I don't want either.
Yeah, I mean, and
Like,
that's why I wanted. I know a lot of folks. I've seen the comments today. They're like, "Oh my god, how did she win?" And like I said, I talked to all of these candidates, but I am dead set. We have 1 cabinet seat now, Democrats. I want 2. If you give me 3,
yeah, we're
and
working
I'm
on
in
3.
Tallahassee. I'm in Tallahassee. I'm all up in they ass. Like, did you eat broccoli for lunch? I mean, I'm in their ass up here when they are in Tallahassee. But I've got people have got to understand these are equal. These are equal. And also 28 years of Republicans running our state. 28 years that we really have no idea where the money resides. We see the budget, but they're all line items. We really don't see the distribution of that money. And why is that? Because the CFO controls the money, where it goes. And for 28 years, we really don't know what our state's full potential is, because there has been no check on what Republicans have designed as the top dog as the governor. That's not how this works.
I
That's not
love
how
this
any of this
conversation,
works.
so that we can highlight that part of it. I think what so often happens is people that are voters just really don't understand how any of this works. So you actually highlighting that. Also being very clear, that's my number 2 point on why we are. I'm like one of the like Carolyn said, if that's a non-starter, focus the energy on the people doing the right things to help people to see that particular contrast. And you and I were on opposite sides of the gubernatorial race. And the deal is this: it's fine if Nikki were to have been the person that would have won the nomination, because I'm comfortable enough to have thrown my support behind her. And helping other people to understand when we make our decisions, there are from different perspectives, but you and I have the same common goal. And so, although our
Right.
perspectives are different about who can actually get there, our goal really is about the communities that are not served, the communities that are most vulnerable, actually bringing some equity to this thing. But then, actually, and people fail to realize, they think us trying to help fix things for people that are not being served is just so they can take over. We understand that if you fix things for the people that are not being served, it governs the entire state. And
Right.
so looking at, Adam, and looking at Aramis, and looking at Charlie, they actually have the ability to do that, and helping to motivate voters around that. It's not about even a perfect candidate. And even with Naomi, it's not about a perfect candidate. It's just she got so much wrong. But even not as a shot at her, I would like to take a shot at the Democratic voters who are already at the table, which are super voters. And it's one of the reasons that I don't believe in running campaigns where we only focus on the super voters. Super voters don't have it right. And I know that's uncomfortable for people, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't. When we're calling and we're knocking on doors and they're saying, well, I'm voting for this person that's the most electable, that's all stupid, because you're pandering to people that have positions that are directly opposed to ours. So how do we get changed that way? And so I love how you are showing. Everybody thinks that DeSantis runs everything because people are afraid to go against him. But then also to acknowledging the number of people that I tell you that said that Democrats have run the state, even though we have no power, they got a messaging game out of this world. And so for us to have selected someone that literally is just like them, it's very difficult for me to get people to go to push for that because we keep perpetuating the same cycle and we lose
Mhm.
in those cycles. Helping people, even to people under why it was Charlie was my choice. Charlie got some problematic things that he said, but when I look at his voting record is something that I can be comfortable about. And helping people to understand it. And on the flip side, people love Keith Perry. His voting record is directly opposed to us. So helping to
Mhm.
educate people, looking at people's track record, we need people that's not saying the right thing. Even like how Naomi can say what she want to say, their actions will show us who needs to do what. I want to give you 3 cabinet seats because that's building power. So then the election after that, we can take the other cabinet seats. And I align with a particular party, but for me, being bold enough to put the right people in there, in these particular offices, in these power positions, is what that's the game changer.
Yeah, I mean, we are all at risk right now, right? I mean, if you're a homeowner right now, I'm sure you've gotten a couple of homeowners insurance letters. I got a letter that was like, "Oh, your pool's not properly fenced in. We're dropping you." Then I got a letter that was like, "Psych, we're not dropping you. We're selling your account to another company." And then another company, that new company, emailed or sent us a letter and said, "Your pool's not properly fenced in. We're gonna drop you." Like, I'm like, like this is crazy, right? And
166% increases.
yeah, and it is because we have not had the right people in those cabinet seats to check the governor, to protect consumers, to tell us where the money resides, to stop wasting money on frivolous lawsuits, on bullshit, and have an AG that's actually fighting for the people, not the governor. And so those seats are so important, so important. And I like I said, I want to. If y'all can give me 3, 4, I'll be happy. But we've got to have a check on this bullshit, and I need people to be as enthusiastic about these cabinet seats as they are about governor and Val Demings and everybody else. Guys, this cabinet is your path to a sustainable Florida.
Indeed.
And I need folks, and the thing is, the trick to this is, as guilty as Democrats have been about skipping down ballot races, so have Republicans. It is a voter behavior. And so, what I'm asking people in this general is for Democrats to change our behavior when it comes to this ticket, to
Absolutely.
treat cabinet and governor as this is a 4-man slot. And however you decide to vote, but pick your top 3 and hammer, 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 knowing that Republicans are going to tick off Rubio, tick off DeSantis, and tick their ass to the House.
Straight
We
like that.
can't do the same thing.
Right.
And so if this thing goes left or right, I guess it'd be right in this case, right? In the event we are not able to capture governor because Republicans galvanize behind DeSantis, but that's where they land, right? They land there. If we can galvanize behind our cabinet, then we fuck up his world in Tallahassee. Because now it's a check on the bullshit. Period, point blank, full stop. And that is what we've been missing. So, yeah, I want us to take it all. Don't get me wrong, right? But I want our strategy to be different. That we are treating the entire cabinet slate like it is the U.S. Senate race and Charlie Crist. Give them all, I need 3 cabinet seats in Tallahassee.
I want to
And
do
I
it just
promise
like the school board race happened here in
things will be
Alachua
different.
County. We were
Oh,
able
y'all
to take
kicked
2
ass in Alachua.
Yeah. So we got 3 seats. We weren't successful in one, but at least we got the majority. Same thing with the
Yes.
cabinet. So I'm gonna be clear. I would like to take the other cabinet seats. And I will say this: the reason I'm so deliberate about they can actually have the ag commissioner seat is to that will help to galvanize voters when they see that we are bold enough to stand for the candidates who are going to do right by the people and take our hands off for the ones that are not. That will help the right people to step up and actually run, because part of the challenge is getting people that want to do the right thing willing to run, because we're trying to dismantle even the way that we've actually done things. We're not able to galvanize our base because we keep supporting people who don't actually represent the people that are being served.
Right.
Additionally, this is a shot at just Democrats in general. When we get our people elected, and we'll talk about even that go up to the state, the manner we as Democrats, because of this good Democrat deal, don't stand up. So even when, like, the voter maps, when DeSantis rolled out those maps and they did that sit in, it should have been more than McCready, Nixon, and Henson. And the fact that all the Democrats that were elected knew that that was happening and left them out there, everybody that goes to Tallahassee needs to know that they're supposed to give their all as it relates to the people. We got to match
Mm.
energy, and our elected officials are not matching energy. And then that final point is too, like how you say, taking those seats. There are too many seats across this state where Republicans run unopposed. And we
Right.
need to take ownership of that and be more proactive about not only getting people to run, but actually giving the support that is needed. We are fighting tooth and nail for even the people that are politically engaged to come to the table and offer supports. And I'm not necessarily saying money, because you might not have money, but your time is so valuable. And so the
It
people
is.
that
It is.
are concerned, I would like to know what effort did they give in order to get someone else elected. We are also here because of people's inaction, and I want people to take ownership of that. You're concerned, I am concerned, but I can show you how it works. But being concerned that Naomi won, but what actions did they take in order to support JR? What actions did they take? And are they taking? You get what I'm saying? Even as it relates to
Mm-hmm.
that.
So here's and I need us to change how we do things in Florida, right? I need you guys. So I know right now we last night was the primary. We're on to the general, but it and with this focus on these cabinet seats, I need you guys also to think long game. Our next cycle starts January. It does not start in 24. Okay, it starts in January. We have an election in November. You get to cut your turkey, open your gifts for Christmas, and then in January, that is the start of the next cycle. And I need that to be ingrained in people that, they say, oh, we can't raise money or we don't have, because we are not doing this right.
Absolutely.
January starts the next cycle. So if you're watching this tonight and you're thinking, I want to run for city commission or county commission or school board or legislative seats, guess what? You are filing in January because you're going to give yourself enough time to qualify by petition. You're going to give yourself enough time to knock every door in your district, not just Democrat doors, not just independent doors.
Exactly.
You're going to strategically give yourself enough time to speak to your community.
And not
And
just super
so,
order doors as well. So please add that in.
yeah, all doors, knock all doors. I live in rural North Florida. I'm outside Tallahassee. I'm in Wakulla County, but I work in Tallahassee. And people vote for who they know and who has built trust. And that comes across party lines. But see, where we fail as Democratic people here in this state is we don't start early enough to get to know all the people we are looking to represent. We don't, we get somebody like me, a consultant, build your whole platform, your issues and everything else, and then send you off to talk about it or whatever. And that doesn't work. It is a lot easier for you as a candidate individually to file this January. Take January to July and just go knock every goddamn door in your district and say,
Absolutely.
hey, I'm running for this seat, and I just want to listen to you. I want to talk to you. I want to be of service to you. And then come July, you have a platform because you've knocked every damn door in your
And
district
learn from the constituents.
and learned directly from them what to run on. It doesn't mean if it's a Democratic seat, a nonpartisan seat, or whatever seat. You have a platform for the people, but even more importantly, the people have seen you on their doorstep.
Absolutely.
And that is how you win your primary 13 months later. And that is how you raise your money over the next year. And that is how you confidently sweep the election in 24. You cannot wait to 24. It's January.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And also teaching the establishment to unlearn that. So, in my experience, with a lot of candidates that I work with, when I state the exact same thing you're stating, they will talk to other consultants that have already been in this or that align with the party. And even too, we can use some of the last night. So one of the candidates that I ran their field, they didn't even think they would be close. He is now going to a runoff. And they failed to realize the reason that he is going to that runoff is I don't just talk to super voters. So yes, we did work double hard, but us working double hard because we engage voters that typically don't vote got him to the runoff. Now we have the opportunity to not only foster those voters, go increase actual voter registration, and then go back and double back the voters that we didn't get because we started by building that capacity. There's another candidate. And even too, we offer supports on the side. Along with the field program that I did, we ensured that we touched and engaged voters for the candidate. They did well in Alachua. I was telling them that you need to engage in the other counties. Well, consultants and other people kept telling them you don't need to go and engage in the other counties. Had they actually taken the advice that I had in the other counties, they would have won. My frustration is what I state gets overshadowed because the establishment is always saying, well, this is how we've always done it. The way that you've always done it is not working. That's why we don't have the majority in Florida. And so helping even people that are at the table when we give these solutions and suggestions, look at what's before you and realize there is a disconnect somewhere. And the only way in order for us to even attain the power that we're trying is to do things differently. And yes, you're going to work a bit harder, but there's a payoff in the end.
Yeah, I mean, give yourself time for the hard work too, right?
Yep.
Because I mean, many of us, most of us on this side of the aisle are not millionaires, right? If we're gonna run for office, we're still working a full-time job,
Yep.
and got kids and probably in school or whatever else. Give yourself time and be comfortable in acknowledging that the establishment loses. They've not done a good job at building majorities. And so, and I say that, even in my tenure now, I'm becoming more of an establishment or long-term consultant, right? And so I tell people, push back on me too. If it doesn't feel right for your area, because I don't live where you live.
Absolutely.
The internet allows us to, consult nationwide now and be on like Zoom calls and stuff or whatever. If I'm going with a strategy that I know based on the data that I see, but your community.
Absolutely.
And if it does not feel right, push back on me. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't live there. But I'm going to take a small sample. We're going to try it out for a week and see what happens, and we're going to roll with the numbers. But I need folks to really understand the goal here is to build majorities in your community, right? The government closest to the people is what's most impactful to you individually. Your school board, county, city. Those are the folks that can fuck with you the hardest.
Indeed.
And they do. But they're not the sexiest seats.
Indeed.
Right?
Right.
And so people tend to lose focus on those things, but they are truly the most important. And so if you're watching tonight or watching later on or whatever, and you're thinking about running for one of those seats, January is when you start. If you start in January, you got an 80% chance of winning in 24. but you got to start early.
Indeed.
Numbers don't lie.
Well, it has been such a pleasure.
All right.
We kept the people
I
for our
know.
little hour.
I've enjoyed this. So look, I need at least two. Give me 3 cabinet seats, and Florida will feel a whole lot different.
Oh yeah.
I promise you that. I live here. My house is literally capital. I can turn in on 2 wheels in 17 minutes. So
What?
we can make change in this state.
Indeed.
But we need at least, if we get 3, the 4, they're equal. It's a check, right? It's a check on the bullshit. We could do big things in Florida. Even with the Republican legislature, we could do big things with 3 cabinet seats.
Indeed. And not only that, we working on changing the face of that legislature. So that's one of the things we did this term was we identified. We thought about it later on, but identifying seats where there is no one in the race and getting people prepped and ready. And so now that's the long game proceeding forward. But I understand that in order for that to be successful, we have to regain the trust of the people. And we don't have it because we keep trying to play their game their way. We get the trust of the people by playing the game our way, because we don't have to play games, by literally being what we say that we stand for.
Yeah, same thing there. If you were thinking about running for a legislative office, like state house, state senate, January is when you file. January, right? January, if you spend 6 months collecting petitions, meeting people, and you've qualified by petition by June of next year, you have a whole year to campaign now before even qualifying week. You could attend rallies and events, talk to people, build your email list, you raise money, you're having house parties and everything else. Like, you've gotten the hard work behind your candidacy out of the way. And now it's just building your momentum, and give yourself an opportunity to do just that. Get the mess out of the way by June of next year. So everything else at that point is just building your vote number. You know how many you're going to need to win. And, I tell people the easiest way to count your vote number is to know what the number is and then get that many people to give you the email address. That is done. I mean, you're communicating with that many voters on a regular basis.
Indeed.
Going into your election. It's an easier win if you do it smart and you start January. And we can take some of these seats back. I don't care. I strongly believe every seat in Florida is winnable. I don't care if it's a D plus 13, a Republican can win it. I don't care if it's an R plus 13, a Democrat can win it. Agreed. Anyone who's willing to do the work on behalf of the people who represent that district can win that seat. Absolutely. Don't let these pundits tell you anything different. Every seat is winnable for the right person willing to do the work.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Well, it's a pleasure. So it's a pleasure to meet and engage with people that Nikki knows. For people that engage with Nikki is a powerhouse, like I said, out of Tallahassee. So I do encourage you to, if you're not her friend or don't follow her, to do just that. You will learn so much. She is funny as hell too. So if you want entertainment, she's also a great person to go in addition to I am certain as we go into the general, you'll probably see us engage more because we really into this, as y'all can tell. It's something that we believe in, but we believe in as well. Were there any final comments that you wanted to give before we logged off?
Yeah, same thing for my group that's watching tonight from my page. Like, look, Chanae she holds down part of North Florida with us. I know I have a lot of North Florida followers on my page or whatever. This is the Gainesville I-75 north of the I-4 corridor. I call us the I-10 corridor. Like, we hold down the North. The North shall win again. We are part, this part of the state. But it's important that you're getting information. Who to look for, who to donate to, or whatever, and how we're going to build this majority. And North Florida, they sleep on us. But I'm telling you, if you want to win, it is through the North. Because y'all can't count on Miami. I'm just going to call it what it is.
We're going to put it out there.
It's up here. This I-10 corridor and this I-75 corridor north of I-4. You want to win this state? It's up here.
Y'all have a good night. Good night, dear.
Good night, everybody.